This next topic is flawed heroines and perfect heroes, the double standard in romance. I'm wading into something a little uncomfortable here, and I know that a lot of people have talked about it before, but I think it's definitely worth re exploring. It's about double standards in romance. Why is it that romance novels so often pair incredibly attractive, emotionally mature, physically fit, sexually competent, rich or powerful men with female characters who are sometimes kind of annoying? I know that's a really harsh word, but I'm saying it with love. Because if you go through the romance novels, a lot of the time these women are emotionally chaotic, unreasonable, self centered, manic and dramatic to the point of being exhausting. And yet the hero is supposed to and does adore them. Absolutely, unconditionally, while also being hot, talented, patient, amazing in bed, and of course, completely loyal and faithful. So here's the thing, I understand why this happens. Romance is, after all, predominantly a female fantasy space. It is mostly written by women for women. And I know there are exceptions, but I'm speaking in generalizations here. So, yes, this is about us and what we want to see reflected back. Hence why we suddenly see this rash of movies and books about older women and hot young guys and all that sort of stuff. That's clearly like the current trend in romance. But for me, it also raises a fair question. In romance, why are women allowed to be messy and loved, and men are only lovable if they are absolutely perfect? It's Beauty and the Beast, and only one side gets to be the beast. So let's talk about the classic Beauty and the Beast dynamic, not in the literal fairy tale sense, but as a metaphor that pops up again and again in romance novels. It is the idea that one person in the relationship gets to be messy, flawed, maybe even a little monstrous, and the other person is pure-hearted, beautiful soul who loves them anyway, and through love transforms them. It's a great trope and it's timeless, but in a lot of modern romance fiction, this dynamic feels quite one-sided. More and more, the heroine is the one who gets to be the beast, figuratively. She's the one who's messy, guarded, frumpy, emotionally erratic, or just plain selfish. The hero, he's the beauty. He's physically flawless, emotionally patient, successful, intelligent, generous, usually a sex god. He also has unlimited stamina, and he is wildly, inexplicably obsessed with her. So, while the shape of the fairy tale is still there, the roles have reversed, and not equally. Because when men are flawed in romance, when they're messy or insecure or unattractive, it's often framed as a problem that needs fixing, or it's just not sexy. But when women are flawed, it's empowering, it's relatable, it's endearing. So the real Beauty and the Beast double standard is that one side gets to be imperfect and still be worthy of love, and the other side has to be perfect in order to love them. It's time to take a look at the messy, manic, and sometimes infuriating heroine. There's a trope across media, and it's not just in books and movies. It's the manic, chaotic woman. In film, we call her the manic pixie dream girl. She's quirky. She's random. She drinks out of a wine bottle while dancing in the rain. She likes going barefoot. She has no actual depth, but she's full of vibes. And the hero falls in love with her because reasons. In romance novels, it's a little bit different. We often get heroines who are extremely insecure, but never wrong, prickly, but never responsible for their own emotional messes. They're outrageous in public, rude in private, but it's fine because they've got personality. And the hero, he just has to deal with it, love her harder, show her she's worth it, fix her gently and never ask for anything in return. It often looks like the guy's very flawed and he has issues, but if you take a look at these romance novels, it's usually the woman who's more of a mess. So, this is a fantasy, but it's also a kind of a reverse emotional labor loop because the man is the one doing all the fixing. If he was the one who was rude, insecure, or difficult in the same way that she is, there would be red flags everywhere. This one is going to be potentially provocative, contentious. I'm going to call it the plus size double standard. Now, let's talk about body image because this is where the double standard really starts to show up. I've seen a rise in plus-size romance heroines, and that's great. I think it's important for readers to see themselves reflected in love stories and to feel desired, worthy, and celebrated without having to lose a ton of weight and change everything about themselves first. I am personally overweight, so I have no issue with reading books about fat women. But here's the kicker. Where is the plus-sized heroes? Where's the fat guy getting the girl? Where is the pudgy nerd who isn't secretly ripped under his hoodie? Where's the soft, awkward, non-alpha male who's loved for who he is? If we have that kind of character, he always has to go through a transformation. Like, he cannot get to the end of the book and still be fat. So you have to go digging for those stories if you really want a fat hero. Whereas the heroine is allowed to be fat for the whole book, but the guy, he pretty much has to transform if he wants to be the hero. So you'll see plus-size heroines who are frequently getting paired with a hot MMA fighter, a billionaire, a rock god, and it's framed as empowerment. But sometimes if you read those novels, the way the guy goes on about her curves and her weight, it seems more like a fetish. That's just me. Like, I feel a bit weird when I read the novels where they're sort of like going on and on about how I love a curvy woman that I can like sink my hands into and all that sort of stuff. But it's very much a one-way door because the guy, he always has to be ideal. He has to be perfect. She gets to be relatable, but he has to be aspirational. She's allowed to be ordinary and flawed, but not the other way around because his flaws are very specific. He's allowed to have like a bad temper and he's allowed to be, emotionally damaged or whatever, but he has to be hot. Like he absolutely has to be good looking. In a romance novel, you cannot have a hero who's anything less than a 10. So the question is this actually empowerment or is it a trap? I'm not here to say these stories are bad. They're not. They're so enjoyable. I love them too. And I, as I've said, think that people should be able to fantasize however they want. Romance is supposed to be indulgent. It's supposed to be safe. It's supposed to let us be loved in our worst moments. It is supposed to be fantasy. But nonetheless, I still can't help turning around and looking at it and thinking, oh, this is interesting. Like, why? Why is this? Because I'm guilty of it myself. I mean, it's not like I go out and I look for books about fat, ugly men. I don't. When I'm reading romance novels, the guy is hot. But for that reason, I think it's worth asking, are we reinforcing the idea that a woman's flaws are lovable, but a man must always be better than her? Are we craving emotional safety for ourselves while refusing to extend that same fantasy to male characters? Are we projecting our own self-worth struggles onto our heroines who get adored so that we can feel adored too? Are we telling ourselves it's okay for us to be messed up and not try to fix ourselves? I don't know. Like, I don't really have answers to these questions, but I guess I'm interested in why these books are the way they are. Anyway, if the answer is yes, that's okay. That's fine. That's real. But we also need to admit that we're doing the same thing we often criticize men for doing. We craft love stories where only one side gets to be flawed, human, and forgiven. So, yes, I have been thinking a lot about the annoying heroine, the messy one, the emotionally stunted, frumpy, selfish, overly dramatic heroine who still gets the dream guy, even though she seems to have very few redeeming qualities.